The 25th Annual California Governor's Historic Preservation Awards were presented on November 19, 2010, in Sacramento. What follows is the presentation that was made during the awards ceremony to explain each award. The first award went to a project to save the Chicken Boy statue in Los Angeles. It was presented to Amy Inouye and the Chicken Boy team. This nomination tells the saga of Chicken Boy, which started life as a 22-foot-tall Paul Bunyan statue manufactured by the International Fiberglass Company in Venice, California. The Chicken Boy Fried Chicken restaurant bought it in the late 1960s, hired an artist to customize it, and installed it atop the restaurant on Broadway in downtown Los Angeles. At the time, Los Angeles was a haven of roadside landmarks, most of which have by now disappeared. When the restaurant closed in 1984, Amy Inouye campaigned to save the statue, and he was offered to her if she moved him. She put him in storage while she contacted museums, hoping to donate him to a sculpture garden, but there were no takers, and he remained in storage until 2007. In 2003, though, Miss Inouye relocated her design office to Highland Park to a building with a flat roof on North Figueroa, an alignment of Route 66. The rock star of structural engineers, Melvin Green, agreed to take on the project. Ms. Inouye's team gathered the requisite approvals to install Chicken Boy, learned how to do fiberglass work to make minor repairs, repainted him, and found a company to install him. To finance all this, Amy created souvenir merchandise to help pay storage fees, won a community beautification grant to help pay for installation, and the rest came out of her pocket. The response to Chicken Boy's October 2007 installation has been wonderful. This preservation success story has created nothing but positive effects that have rippled far beyond Mr. Boy's rooftop. The Tuolumne County Historic Preservation Review Commission and the Department of Community Development received an award for their annual Keeping Time conferences, of which there have been 3 thus far. The 1988 ordinance establishing the Tuolumne County Historic Preservation Review Commission includes public education as one of its missions. Starting in 2007, the Commission and the Department of Community Development began seriously considering coordinating and hosting a historic preservation conference germane to the concerns of the Gold Country. Their goal was to bring the basics of preservation to the area, introduce and explain incentives, educate decision-makers who deal with infill, demolition, and alterations, and, in general, begin a dialogue within the region about the importance of cultural resources to the history of California, the economy, community identity, and economic revitalization. The results were 3 conferences thus far, Keeping Time 1, 2, and 3, the first 2 held at Columbia State Historic Park, and the last in June 2010 in Sonora. Registration costs are kept low so as many people as possible can attend. The day-long program features speakers in the morning and early afternoon, followed by a 1-hour walking tour of preservation successes. Topics have included surveys, historic preservation elements and general plans, the California Historical Building Code, weatherizing historic buildings, CEQA, demolitions, sustainable preservation, adaptive reuse, Mills Act, and designing infill projects. Tuolumne County is a certified local government, or CLG, and one of the basic requirements of all CLGs is providing for adequate public participation in the local historic preservation program. By hosting and coordinating these affordable conferences designed for the rural Gold Country region, Tuolumne County has exceeded its minimum CLG requirements. It has advanced the educational requirements to the regional level not once, but 3 times, with next year's conference already in the planning stages. The second project to receive an award was the Bubeshko Apartments in Los Angeles. This award was presented to homeowners Joe DeMarie and Madeline Brand and their architect Eric Haas. 2 apartment buildings built for mother and daughter Anastasia and Luby Bubeshko comprised the Bubeshko Apartments, one built in 1938, the other next door in 1941. Requirements for the project were simple and clear: a home for a mother and daughter that would also provide rental income and be part of a complex of living spaces flexible enough to accommodate whatever life would bring. Rudolf Schindler's response was a vision of a Greek hillside, a framework for individual apartments, each with a direct connection to the outdoors, that work collectively. For 65 years, the Bubeshko Apartments stayed in the family, with Luby Bubeshko continuing to call them home. Architect Gregory Ain lived in one of the apartments near the end of his life. The buildings had weathered those years without significant maintenance or repairs, so when Luby put them up for sale in 2005, it became clear that making the property financially viable would be a challenge. The couple that became the new owners were interested from the beginning in a less invasive project, one in keeping with the original spirit of both the architecture and the life of the buildings. The work began with a study of Schindler's formative intentions via review of his project drawings and correspondence, on-site archaeology, and his writings. The owners and their architect Erich Haas embraced Schindler's formative aesthetic and sense of economy, recreating his original details and color palette. The Bubeshko Apartments represent one of the few realized and intact multifamily dwellings by this significant Los Angeles architect. For the first time this year, the awards were open to individuals who have made a significant contribution over time to the advancement of historic preservation. And the next award went to one such person, Chris Brewer. Chris Brewer is a writer, publisher, and visionary, and serves as an architectural historian with Caltrans Central Region, involved in the planning of major highway projects in the San Joaquin Valley. In 2004, Mr. Brewer began a personal quest to design, construct, and stock a history museum in Exeter. Not only did he design the museum's interior, but the majority of the museum's artifacts and collections are from his historical archives. Mr. Brewer has also been involved in numerous historical resources preservation projects over the years, both as a private citizen and through his work with Caltrans. Mr. Brewer also owns and operates Bear State Books, publishing books on California history. He has been published in numerous newsletters and has authored a number of books. Most of his books are historic photographic albums of the area. When he moved to Exeter, Mr. Brewer purchased many of the works of Frank Latta, an expert on the culture and history of the native Yokuts people who were indigenous to the southern and central San Joaquin Valley. Brewer's Bear State Books, in conjunction with Coyote Press, has reissued the expanded version of Latta's Handbook of Yokuts Indians, originally published in 1977, which is generally recognized as the most thorough study of this culture. Mr. Brewer's publications are more labors of love than aimed at profit. He is now working on a manuscript about his great-great-grandfather, Colonel Thomas Baker, who was born 200 years ago and founded the city of Bakersfield. In addition to his museum and publishing work, Mr. Brewer operates an archives of California and local historical materials, rivaling the special collections of larger public libraries. The City of Los Angeles Office of Historic Resources was the next award recipient for their SurveyLA public participation program. SurveyLA, the Los Angeles Historic Resources Survey Project, is the first ever comprehensive inventory of Los Angeles's historic resources. The Getty Conservation Institute is providing technical and advisory support to the project, which is overseen by the City of Los Angeles's Office of Historic Resources. Until now, only 15% of the city had been surveyed, and the project is considered one of the most far-reaching historic preservation initiatives in the nation. The sheer size of Los Angeles, a city of more than 465 square miles, makes a citywide survey particularly challenging, as does the city's ethnic, economic, and linguistic diversity. The Getty's grant agreement did not provide funding for public participation, so the Office of Historic Resources had to be creative in identifying numerous outside partners and funding sources to make the public participation program possible. The public participation program includes several distinct but well-integrated components: a SurveyLA video, multilingual brochures, My Historic LA Guide to Public Participation in SurveyLA, the SurveyLA website, an e-newsletter, and the Volunteer Program and Volunteer Speakers Bureau. The SurveyLA Public Participation Program represents the first initiative ever to engage communities in historic preservation in every corner of Los Angeles. The website and newsletter have given the city's historic preservation program a public face and have provided a replicable model for other local governments. The program is also significant for its use of technology to promote historic preservation. SurveyLA and the My Historic LA Guide are already beginning to inspire exciting spin-off community activities, including neighborhood walkabouts, historic walking tours, community celebrations, and online archives. The rehabilitation of 2 historic Chinese structures in Fiddletown was the next project to receive an award, which was presented to the Fiddletown Preservation Society and Garavalia Architecture. The Fiddletown Preservation Society had worked since 2001 to raise funds to preserve a Chinese gambling hall and general store built in approximately 1850. The two buildings serve as physical reminders of the role early Chinese immigrants played during the Gold Rush era. Though buildings associated with Chinese miners and workers were common at the turn of the 20th century, by the turn of the next century most had been lost. The gambling hall and general store, along with the Chu Key herb shop and a rammed earth residential structure nearby, constitute a significant subdistrict reflecting Chinese Gold Rush era history. Both are listed on the National Register. The buildings are owned by Amador County and are managed under a long-term lease by the Fiddletown Preservation Society. The Society raised funds from private donations and small grants to supplement those received from the California Heritage Fund. The goal was to stabilize and preserve the buildings while potential uses were explored. The approximately $460,000 project was completed in December of 2008, funded with $410,000 in state grants and $50,000 in private donations.